So the final panel for today's public session, we just thought it might be interesting to have a look at some local business leaders from the Yukon and talk a bit about how the mining sector specifically affects their business, whether it's directly or indirectly, and just to help highlight, especially some of the businesses that are, further removed from the industry as direct service companies. So the panel we have today, Ian Cosco on my immediate right, he's the owner and CEO and president of Tintina Air. He's owned it for the last 7 years, 8 years?
Yeah. So I've been an owner since
2017, I think. Okay.
And majority shareholder since 2022.
Okay, awesome. Oh, you've got to push a button on it. Anyway, I'll just finish the introductions, and then we're going to start through the panel. So on Ian's right is Miles Hogan, co-owner of Yukon Built Clothing, which we've seen a lot of, you always see a lot of around town. So I'm sure everybody knows that business. Rochelle Burlmeyer owns Reflex Supplements and also is a realtor with Coldwell Banker. And then finally, Michael Hale, CEO of NVD Property Management, lots of hotels, and a business that has operations in several communities, Dawson, Carmax, Mayo, and here. Okay, so lots of, and in fact, even the new Hyatt, which many of you have probably been to, is co-owned or underwritten or something by NVD, right? Oh, you own it, okay. Okay, so what we'll do, we'll start with Ian, and then we'll go to Rochelle and Michael, and then to, we'll go Ian first, then we'll go to Miles, Rochelle. They ordered themselves in the proper order, look at that. And we'll end with Michael, because we'll sandwich the two businesses who are very obviously linked to the sector, and put the meat in the middle will be the people who are a little further removed. So Ian, sure. Go at her.
All right, so as Carolyn mentioned, I have been an owner at Tintina since 2017 and the majority shareholder since 2022. Although I myself am not a true born and raised Yukoner, Tintina Air is and always has been a Yukon owned and operated company for over 15 years. We're currently operating 9 aircraft to provide year-round 24-hour on-demand air charter services throughout the Yukon and beyond. We pride ourselves on holding an outstanding safety record, providing reliable, efficient service to all industries, although our main focus has been on the mining sector since our inception. Thus far in 2025, over 80% of our revenue has come from mining or mining-related activities, and that number is projected to increase to over 85% in 2026. So I think it's safe to say the impact of mineral exploration in the mining sector has been pretty significant for my business.
Thanks. Go ahead, Miles.
Are we there? Perfect. So yeah, I'm Miles Hogan. I am much less prepared than Ian here. But yeah, I am not as directly related to the industry, but certainly we feel the effects of it. Yukon Built's a local lifestyle clothing brand. We started in 2017. My brother and I launched the company. We did grow up here. We're born and raised Yukoners and always wanted to create something that represented home. So we developed the concept for Yukon Built, which we created into this clothing brand very much as a friends and family, create a sweater, and kind of your typical small business, bootstrap business that has evolved over the years from creating a few sweaters for friends and family to opening up a retail shop just about a block from here on Alexander Street, and it has turned into something much bigger than what we anticipated at the beginning. Very community-based business, but we create a number of products, everything from sweaters and t-shirts, hats and toques, and are quickly expanding into different categories to represent the Yukon, the place that we're so proud to be from, and creating products that really can be worn here. And we figure if it can be worn and good enough for the Yukon, it can be good enough for anywhere. So we're quickly expanding over the years into different product categories. And yeah, it's been a great ride. It's been something that we're so proud to be part of this community of, and I think that's part of the reason I guess I have an opportunity to chat here is because of this community. It's really a place where small businesses like us can thrive because of the support from everyone within this community. So that's a quick synopsis of what we are.
Awesome, thank you. Rochelle?
Hi, I'm Rochelle Burlmeyer. I was born and raised in Whitehorse, and I opened Reflex Supplements also in 2017. My whole life has been revolved around mining, the mining industry. Back in the day, our family co-owned Yukon Honda, so that very much revolved around mining and the miners coming into town and buying their toys and spending their money. And throughout the years, our whole family, my daughter works for Pele Construction, her boyfriend, all their friends work in placer mining, her best friend works at Finning. But with Reflex, when I started that business, it was during the time that Vic Gold was up and running, and the workers were coming in and coming out, flying in, flying out, and they would come into the store and load up on their supplements before they went out to camp. So it was a very big part of my business when everything was running, and after it shut down, that was a very significant difference in a lot of small businesses. But I think a lot of people don't realize the trickle effect of how something like that, when a big mine shuts down, it's not just the bigger companies that it affects all of us. And I know even for me personally, it affects Air North and all the people that were commuting in and out on Air North. But now, like for somebody like me that's traveling back from somewhere and has to overnight in Vancouver, there's no 8 a.m. flights on most days, and that also is an effect of how the mining industry, and when it's busy, it's booming, and when it's not, it does affect a lot of people. My late husband was born and raised in Dawson City. His family started the Triple J Hotel, and so their business also very much relied on mining and placer mining in Dawson. And as most of us all know, when Dawson's busy, Dawson's a very fun place to be. So throughout all my life, not just with Reflex, also with real estate, and when the Faro mine shut down, we all saw what happened in Faro and real estate there. So I think with Reflex, over the years, I've had a lot of customers and clientele built up, but now with Vic Gold shutting down and not having everybody in the store every 2 weeks talking about their turnaround and heading back out to camp, it's been a significant difference. So.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. I'm Michael Hale. I'm the CEO of MBD. I've been in that role for about 2.5 years. Our business is deeply tied. In fact, we often talk about the fact that MBD likely wouldn't be here if it wasn't for mining. During COVID, I was COO, and this company, as you can imagine, in the middle of COVID, running a hotel and restaurant company wasn't a great business. But Minto and Vic, 2-week turnarounds, 2-week stays, ordering all your food. So our company, like yours, it still exists today largely because the mining companies and the fact that those mining companies operated during COVID. But for those who don't know, we're a majority First Nation owned company. We didn't start that way. We've become that over time. And we have hotels. If you're staying in a hotel in Dawson, there's a pretty good chance it's owned by us in partnership with Tontaquitchin. If you're staying in a hotel in Mayo, it's owned by us in a partnership with Natranaik Dunn. If you're stopping for gas in Carmax, that's owned with us in Little Sam and Carmax. So everywhere we go, we do it in partnership with the local First Nation, which I think is really important because as a company that operates not just in Whitehorse, but in Carmax and Mayo and Dawson, places that are heavily influenced by and directly impacted by mining, it's a way in which the First Nations themselves are also benefiting directly from the activity that's generated through mining. And it's a good way of demonstrating the value of mining in the community because it's not mining, but there's no way when the Eldo, when Peter passed away and the Eldo went up for sale, it was going to be bought by someone from outside the community at a discounted rate. And because we were able to partner with TH and buy it, we kept it in the community, we kept it locally owned, it's owned by the First Nation with us, And the Eldo really is a symbol of mining in Dawson in some ways. That's where miners go to eat, it's where they go to drink, it's where they go to stay. When we bought it, it didn't have, you couldn't book online, you had to call directly, which only miners would still do that. But I mean, everywhere where we operate, a big part of our operation is tied to mining. And it's not just the hotels, which is what everyone thinks of when they think of MBD. We have a lot of commercial real estate. And that commercial real estate is filled with small businesses that would not exist without mining. So when mining stops, it's not just that MVD is harmed in its hotels or its restaurants. And restaurants live and die on this industry, full stop. Without mining, restaurants do not make it through winter. You need miners to come and book your restaurant for a Christmas party, because if you don't have that in a single-digit margin industry, restaurants would not exist here without mining. But in those small, we feel it when places like, like if we're leasing to a small clothing company or a local vitamin supplement store, when the mining stops, their rent comes a little bit later, and they don't have as many people working in the store. So we see it both through our direct involvement and through our real estate. And then, like a very typical Yukon family, my wife, CEO of Alcan, so two things about that. The Yukon is full of people who, one or both of you, are tied to mining somehow. Yes, there are lots of families with government jobs, but the spouse is working in mining or in something that's supported by mining. The other thing I've learned, just very quickly, Ian, you have incredible stamina and guts, because anyone who can run an airline is like no one I've ever met before. So miners and airline people go together. They both have incredible fortitude. So yeah, that's our story.
Crazy. So you mentioned that there are, besides business people, there are government people here, and there are families that are two government incomes, and so probably not that connected with mining people. So if they were to say, well, how do I benefit from Tintina's success or from NVD's success? Can you talk a little bit about that? Maybe Ian first, if you...
I mean, I think one thing that mining provides us with is obviously financially. We have the ability to buy more aircraft and provide services outside of mining, such as for the individual resident in Whitehorse, we can offer services to go hunt, go fish, do something in the territory that benefits you or your family. And without mining, we can't afford to run the aircraft that we do run. So overall, I mean, the revenue that mining brings in provides us with better aircraft, more availability, and crews that we can service anyone, and that in turn provides better services for Yukon residents.
The gravy effect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I think the best example for MBD right now is the Hyatt, and the reason being, that's, just so everyone knows, that's $54 million of private money. That's how much money, both cash and borrowed, built that hotel. So that's a massive amount of private investment. When banks finance, one of the things that slowed our financing was the closure of BIC, because banks had to then think about, is this still a viable community? Is this still viable that this would go? So anyone who eats at Carved, the restaurant that's in there, opening 7 days a week soon, anyone who's had a really nice anniversary dinner at the Belly of the Bison, those places aren't open without mining, full stop. Hyatt doesn't get built without mining, full stop. Whistlebend, we're about to start a $100 million project up there that's going to build a grocery store and all those things. That won't get financed without mining. There won't be enough money in the community, there won't be enough jobs in the community, and the banks won't trust the community. It's changed financing in this place. We can now get large commercial loans. You used to not be able to do that in the Yukon. You can do that now. Our scale is, and everything that, like if you like going into small retail shops that are in buildings we own, those are all directly tied to mining, if only because without mining we couldn't finance it.
Do either of you have anything you want to add to that? No pressure, just...
I guess I could just add on a very high level, obviously, us as a business, Yukon Built isn't directly involved so much as some of the other businesses, but for us, it's almost twofold. It's both directly and indirectly. Indirectly, just on a general customer base, sort of a thriving community can support small businesses, which help them thrive, which helps everyone else around them thrive. And then in a direct capacity, I guess we've been lucky enough to collaborate on collections, hoodies, sweaters with different businesses that are involved directly with the mining industry. I've seen a number of the sponsors of this week that we've done collaborative sweaters and products for. Tintina, we have a great collaboration hoodie together with, so we see those connections throughout the community, both indirectly from individuals that may be shopping with us, and also businesses that are directly related with mining that are sort of collaborating with us. So we definitely feel that effect as well as a small local business.
Awesome. And so, like Ian, you mentioned 85% of your company's revenues from the sector. So, and I'm sure yours is significant as well, Michael. When maybe it's easier for Rochelle and Miles to survive the up and down swings of the mining sector than you guys. How do you plan for those lean years?
Well, I've been fortunate enough that I've basically been on a mining high since I've been an owner, and I haven't had to deal with that yet, but we keep our clients happy outside of mining, especially in the hunting outfitting industry, and they can coast us through the ebbs and flows and the low points of mining. But like I said, I haven't had to experience that yet. Those clients we could sustain a few years with alone, but without mining, we would be downsizing dramatically. So.
Yeah, I think the same story. I mean, there's no, it wasn't mining, and in fact, mining kept us through COVID, but if you want to see what happens to a hotel company when clients go away, we close hotels and we lay people off. During COVID, in 2 weeks, we went from 257 employees to 54. And if exploration stopped in particular, because exploration is a lot of activity, easiest thing to do is close the Edgewater, lay off those 30-something people, and just start moving through your businesses. And that's a crappy thing to have to do, to sit in a room and lay people off. That's a terrible thing to have to do. But this government isn't, it's just running a business. And government is equally important. Like, this isn't an either or pie. Government doesn't need to get smaller, private sector needs to get bigger. That's the idea. And so I just, well, maybe a little smaller, but but not too much smaller, because it's such a big part of our community. But you take mining away, all of our businesses are a little fragile. We're not Vancouver, and you can't take 10% out. You can't take 15% out, because when you do that, all the other pieces of it, they're so interdependent now. All like sure, it's 85%, but you took away the other 15%, that would be really hard too, because it all feeds in together. None of us are big enough to survive little shifts. So I think the impact of mining going away in some fashion, where there weren't people moving in and out, where there weren't, those fly-in, fly-outs. Yes, it'd be great if they lived here, but they also stay in our hotels and eat in our restaurants, and they fly on our planes, and they buy our stuff.
And during COVID, when they were all quarantining at your hotels,
Great.
I was doing, exactly, and I was doing deliveries from Reflex, leaving them at the front desk, leaving them at the door, because they were having to quarantine for 2 weeks every time they came in another camp. So that was a big part during COVID of keeping also my business alive, was because those camp workers were at your hotels and they still wanted their products, and I was still making sure they got them because they needed them even though they were quarantining for 2 weeks.
And we were feeding them, and
Try to stay
they
as
weren't getting their
healthy as
nutrition,
possible.
so.
And out at camp,
supplementing
having said
it.
that, they want their greens powders, they want their protein powders, so they want it to still be as healthy as possible and have their protein bars, and it is a big part of camp life, of having those supplements out there.
So this is a fairly narrow view of, okay, we've got a mining industry, and then we have the businesses that earn their living off that mining industry. And that's not the only impact that mining has. There's other positive and there's some negative ripple effects of mining. And there's stresses on society, like the healthcare system. If Yukon were to double in size over the next few years, there'd be lots of stressors on education, on infrastructure and stuff. But most of those other things are largely a government role to manage and supply. But there are some societal benefits beyond profits and beyond numbers of employees who have jobs. And I'm thinking, for example, KPMA recently contributed $500,000 to the nutrition program at Roberts Service School. Are there things that your businesses have done that are sort of fall under the philanthropy banner?
Absolutely. With Tintina, we have contributed and donated to several companies, including the Yukon Cancer Care Fund, the Yukon Learn Center, the Yukon Humane Society, the Whitehorse Minor Hockey Association, Whitehorse Recreational Hockey League, a few local athletes. I've got more and more. And with added revenue, obviously, we have more freedom to contribute and donate to the communities. So.
Yeah, same idea. I mean, same, and it's the same things. It's minor hockey. We're a big donor to the university because we believe in what that could be, and in particular, what it could mean for this community. But you know, we do. I don't know that mining is the reason we do it, but it's probably the cream on our. It's the profit which allows us to get into a space where we can start giving some of that money away and give it back to the community. But, you know, Carolyn, you talked about how there are things about mining that people, that aren't on this panel, but that aren't great. There are elements of it that are a challenge. And in our company, because we operate in these communities where everywhere we go, we're majority First Nation owned, we have to have that conversation. We have, Darren Lease has been on my board. Jennifer, she was here, but I bored her, so she left, but she's on my board, right? Like all these conversations are happening in the private sector anyway, and I hope they're happening more broadly in the community. Like it's kind of crazy that this is the second year in a row I've sat on a panel to talk about the impact of mining, and it's still a message that needs to get out. And I think that's surprising in the Yukon. When I came here, mining was it. So there's something that's happened in the narrative in our community that has to get beyond geoscience. I don't know how we're going to do that, but we're having these conversations all day, every day in our business, and they should be having them in the community.
Yeah, and I think money isn't necessarily the single underpinning most important thing for some people, and it reflects the fact that we are a wealthy community, and so we're not starving or needing for much. But yeah, I mean, I think it really helps any business, whether it's a mining company or a company in the territory, contributing to the broader social good. So yeah. Awesome. Well, I think it looks like we're at the 0 mark on the timer. Any last comments anybody wants to make? Any questions from the floor? Okay. Well, thank you very much, all of you, for coming out. This was awesome, and we really appreciate it.